Hey, Sipsters. Happy New Year. Welcome back to Sip and Talk. It's Joe here with,
Sunny.
the one and only Sunny. You ready to dive into some seriously weird stuff to kick off 2025?
Hey, everyone. You bet I am. Gotta shake off that holiday brain fog somehow, right?
Speaking of brain fog, did I tell you about that crazy thing that happened to me right before New Year's Eve?
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to make my grandma's famous sugar cookies. The ones with the super secret spice blend.
Those are legendary.
Right, so I'm looking at the recipe, and it calls for Grandma's special spice mix, which is like totally useless because she never wrote down the actual spices.
Oh, no.
I searched high and low, called my mom, even checked some ancient family cookbooks. Nothing.
So what happened? Did the cookies turn out okay?
That's the weird part. I was about to give up, but then bam. While I was watching the ball drop on TV, the exact spice combo just popped into my head.
What?
Clear as day. Like, where did that come from? It's like my brain had a secret back door for knowledge.
Okay, that is spooky. It's like your brain went on a time-traveling quest to get that recipe. And you know what? That totally ties into what we're diving into today. The mystery of knowledge that seems to appear out of nowhere.
We're taking inspiration from a classic Doctor Who episode, Time Travel Paradoxes, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you ready to dive deep into something that's really been kind of messing with my head?
Hit me with it.
All right, so it's this whole idea of knowledge just appearing out of thin air, but on a whole other level.
Yeah.
What if the answer to a problem just kind of pops into your head and you have absolutely no clue where it came from?
With the ticking bomb and the doctor suddenly has the code to disarm it,
Yeah.
seemingly sent from their future self or something.
Right, so that's what we're unpacking today, folks, the idea of knowledge from nowhere.
That's right.
We've got a ton of research here, articles, even some crazy philosophical theories, and we're going to see if this is even remotely possible.
Yeah, we're talking about closed loops in time.
Ooh.
Quantum weirdness, even a little bit of artificial intelligence.
Right.
AI, yeah, all to figure out if knowledge actually needs a source or if it can just materialize like magic.
Like magic.
Yeah.
Right, so let's start with the basics then.
Okay.
We've got arguments on both sides.
Yeah.
Some folks say knowledge from nowhere is just plain impossible.
Uh-huh.
Others think there might be something to it.
Right.
So let's break it down. What do you say?
Okay, so the people who think it's possible often point to time travel theories.
Time travel.
Yeah. Specifically, this idea of self-consistent loops where events in the future can influence the past.
Whoa.
In a way that makes the whole timeline make sense.
So you're saying if I travel back in time and leave a message for myself,
Right.
that message was always part of my past,
Exactly.
even though it seemingly came from my future self.
The loop makes sure there's no paradox.
So it's always been there.
It exists because the future, you already went back and left it.
Okay. I think I'm following.
So now,
Whoa.
apply that to knowledge. What if the doctor's future self actually got that code from somewhere else and then traveled back to deliver it, creating this illusion of knowledge just popping into existence?
Okay, so then where would that original knowledge come from?
That, my friend, is the million-dollar question.
Right. We're back to square one.
But there are some pretty wild theories out there.
Like what?
Well, one idea comes from quantum physics. You familiar?
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
Specifically, these things called quantum fluctuations.
Yeah, quantum fluctuations.
So it's like energy just popping in and out of existence.
Right.
Like the universe is constantly bubbling with potential, and sometimes that potential turns into something real.
Okay. I like where this is going.
So some physicists think that something similar could happen with information.
Okay, hold on.
Like, what if knowledge itself can fluctuate into existence just like energy?
So you're saying it's not really created, it's just sort of discovered?
That's one way to think about it.
Like finding a radio signal from another dimension or something?
Exactly. It's a pretty mind-bending concept.
First,
But it's actually being explored in fields like quantum computing and information theory.
really?
Oh, yeah. And then there's the whole world of AI where systems are learning and generating outputs without actually being explicitly programmed for it.
Right, like those AI art generators.
Exactly.
That makes some pretty amazing images.
Yeah, from just a few words.
But even then, they're still learning from existing data, right?
True, but it does make you question the nature of creativity and originality.
Yeah, is the AI really creating something new?
We're just remixing information in new ways.
Right, and if an AI can do that, could there be other mechanisms for knowledge generation that we haven't even discovered yet?
That's the question, isn't it?
Okay, my brain is officially fried.
Let's take a break and we'll come back to that.
Okay, yeah, let's hear the other side of the argument. The folks who say knowledge from nowhere is just plain impossible.
All right.
What's their evidence?
Well, one of their main arguments is based on this thing called the second law of thermodynamics.
Okay.
You familiar?
I've heard of it.
It states that entropy, basically disorder, always increases in a closed system.
So like if you leave a room untouched, it'll get dusty and messy over time, not cleaner.
Exactly. It won't organize itself.
Gotcha.
So they're saying that information can't just spontaneously organize itself into knowledge.
Right.
It needs some kind of input, some work to be done.
Okay, so maintaining a perfectly preserved loop of information over time, defying entropy, seems highly unlikely.
Seems highly unlikely.
Okay, and then there's also the whole idea that knowledge needs a source, right? We learn through observation, experimentation.
Right.
Even a random thought has to be triggered by something.
Yeah, but what about intuition, though?
Ooh, good point.
Those gut feelings that turn out to be right.
Right, even though you can't explain why you have them.
Yeah, that's where things get a little tricky.
Okay, so maybe there's more going on behind the scenes than we realize.
Possibly.
But even if knowledge from nowhere isn't literally true, is there any real-world science that at least hints at this kind of possibility?
There are definitely areas of research that touch on these concepts.
Oh, really? Like what?
For example, scientists studying wormholes, those theoretical tunnels through space-time,
Right.
they have to consider the idea of self-consistent loops to avoid those paradoxes.
Oh, that makes sense.
And physicists researching quantum fluctuations are really pushing the boundaries of what we know about the universe.
Right.
And the very nature of information.
So maybe there's more to the universe than we can currently perceive.
Could be.
And those hidden layers could hold the key to understanding how knowledge might emerge in ways we haven't even imagined yet.
It's possible.
Okay, let's be real. This is all very theoretical.
Right.
So what are the practical implications of this whole knowledge from nowhere idea?
Yeah.
Why should the average person even care?
That's a great question. Because even if we don't have definitive answers, just exploring these concepts can change how we think about learning and creativity and even our own consciousness.
Well, our consciousness too.
Yeah, what if we could tap into those hidden layers of information?
Right.
What if we could train our minds to be more receptive to those eureka moments?
It's like we're all walking around with these untapped reservoirs of knowledge.
Right.
Just waiting to be unlocked.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual potential. Think about the societal implications.
All right. Yeah.
What if we could harness these mechanisms for knowledge generation to solve complex problems or advance technology?
Or even understand the universe in new ways.
Exactly.
Okay, my brain is officially buzzing.
Mine too.
We've covered so much ground already.
Yeah, but I have a feeling we're just getting started.
I think you're right.
Stay tuned for part 2 of this incredible deep dive.
All right, everybody, we'll be right back.
All right, welcome back, everybody.
Oh, man, my brain is still buzzing from that last segment.
I know, right? But we're about to go even deeper
Oh, no.
down the rabbit hole.
Okay, I'm game, though.
All right, good. Because one of the most fascinating things about all this is how it connects to consciousness.
Consciousness. Okay, you officially lost me.
How so?
Well, how does, knowing stuff relate to, who we are as individuals?
Well, think about it. Our memories, our experiences, all the stuff we know, it shapes our identity.
Right.
Yeah, it makes us unique.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens to that sense of self in a world where knowledge can just appear from thin air?
That's a good question. I guess it makes you question the reliability of your own memories.
Right.
What if those eureka moments are just external information bleeding into my consciousness?
Yeah, it's kind of freaky if you really think about it.
Yeah, it is.
If we can't be sure where our knowledge comes from,
Yeah.
how can we be sure of anything?
Right.
How can we even trust our own thoughts?
I know this is starting to feel like one of those late night philosophical debates that leave you with more questions than answers.
Totally.
Okay, but let's say, just for fun, that knowledge can just appear in our minds.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be a good thing?
I mean,
Imagine all the problems we could solve.
Yeah.
All the amazing things we could achieve.
Instant knowledge.
Right. No studying required.
Right. But there's a flip side to that.
Oh.
What if the information is wrong?
Oh.
Or biased? Or intentionally misleading?
Oh, yeah, like those fake news articles online. Imagine that stuff just popping into people's heads.
Right.
Disguised as, real knowledge.
That's a recipe for disaster.
Total chaos.
And then it gets even more complicated when you think about manipulation.
Oh, yeah.
What if someone could control this phenomenon?
Right.
They could, like, plant ideas in people's minds.
Without them even knowing.
Exactly.
This is starting to sound less like a deep dive and more like a sci-fi thriller.
I know, right?
Okay, but I guess it's important to consider these downsides.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially as technology advances and we blur the lines between real and virtual.
It's more important now than ever.
So where does that leave us? Are we just doomed to live in a world where we can't trust our own minds?
Not necessarily. I think this whole thing just highlights the importance of awareness. We need to learn how to evaluate sources, identify logical fallacies, and recognize manipulation.
So it's not just about protecting ourselves.
Right.
It's about creating a more informed society.
As a whole.
Okay, so it's not about shutting down those eureka moments, but about being more discerning.
Exactly.
To the information that we get.
Whether it comes from external sources or seemingly out of nowhere.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. But I still have so many questions.
Like what?
Like, what about those real-world examples we were going to talk about?
Oh, yeah.
Are there any actual scientific discoveries or technologies that, like, shed light on this whole thing?
There are, and that's exactly what we're going to dive into
All right.
in the final part of this deep dive.
Okay.
We'll explore some fascinating case studies that blur the lines between what we thought was possible and what might actually be within reach.
All right. You've got me hooked. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back for the grand finale.
Okay, we are back for the final part of our deep dive, and I am so ready for those real-world examples you were talking about.
All right. You asked for it, so get this. Remember when we talked about Kip Thorne?
Kip Thorne, yeah, the physicist who worked on Interstellar.
That's the one.
Yeah, the wormhole guy.
Right. His work is so fascinating because it shows how even theoretical physics has to deal with the idea of closed loops and self-consistency.
Right, to avoid those paradoxes.
Exactly. He says if time travel were ever possible, it would have to work within these loops.
Okay, so no going back in time and accidentally changing the course of history.
Nope, not if you want to avoid a major cosmic meltdown. But here's the really wild part.
Thorne's research suggests that these closed loops might not just be a way to prevent paradoxes. They might actually be the mechanism that makes time travel possible in the first place.
Okay, now that is a serious mind bender, but I'm still craving something a bit more concrete,
I hear you. So let's talk about artificial intelligence.
Okay.
AI, specifically something called reinforcement learning.
Reinforcement learning.
This is where AI systems learn through trial and error within a closed loop.
So like a robot learning to walk by, constantly trying and failing and adjusting until it gets it right.
Exactly. The AI gets feedback on its actions and uses that feedback to improve over time.
Okay, so it's like a self-contained learning system.
You got it.
But how does that relate to knowledge appearing out of nowhere?
Well, think of those AI systems that can now beat grandmasters at chess.
Right.
They weren't programmed with every single move and strategy.
Right. They learned by playing millions of games.
Against themselves, essentially creating their own knowledge base from scratch.
So even though it's technically using existing data, it's generating new insights and strategies that weren't specifically programmed in.
Right, it's blurring the lines.
That's pretty close to knowledge from nowhere.
It is, and it has huge implications for the future of AI Imagine systems that can solve complex problems, develop new technologies, even create art and music, all without human intervention.
Okay, that's both exciting and kind of terrifying at the same time.
Yeah.
But it does make you wonder, if AI can do it, are there other mechanisms for knowledge generation that we haven't discovered yet?
That's the big question, isn't it? We've explored time loops, quantum fluctuations, AI. Maybe there are even more mind-blowing explanations out there just waiting to be discovered.
It's like we're standing at the edge of this vast, uncharted territory, and we're just starting to see the potential of what might be possible.
Exactly, and that's what makes all of this so fascinating. It challenges our assumptions about what we know, how we learn, and even what it means to be human in a world where knowledge might not always have a clear origin.
So after this incredible deep dive, what's the takeaway? What do we do with all of this information?
I think the most important thing is to stay curious, keep asking questions, and be open to the possibility that the universe is far more mysterious and complex than we currently understand.
Yeah, and maybe, just maybe, we'll have those eureka moments, those flashes of insight that seem to come from nowhere and unlock a whole new level of understanding.
And who knows, maybe those insights will lead to breakthroughs that could benefit all of humanity.
Well, this deep dive has definitely left me feeling energized and inspired. It's a good reminder that there's always more to learn, more to explore, and more to discover out there.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So thank you to everyone for tuning in to the Deep Dive.
Yes, thank you all so much for being here.
We wish you a very happy and healthy 2025.
May your year be filled with joy, adventure, and of course, plenty of Eureka moments.
And hey, if you're looking for some real-world adventures, be sure to check out Mickytolife on YouTube.
Absolutely. He's got incredible travel stories, whiskey recommendations, and all sorts of fun stuff.
Tell him we sent you. So, Sipsters, as we kick off 2025, let's raise a toast to the mysteries of the universe. May your year be filled with unexpected discoveries, mind-bending insights, and maybe even a few aha moments of your own.
Cheers to that. Happy New Year, everyone. And remember, if you have any personal experiences with knowledge that seem to appear out of nowhere, share them with us on social media. We love hearing your stories.
Until next time, stay curious, stay thirsty for knowledge, and keep those deep thoughts flowing.